Calvin, how are we doing
Yo, yo.
today?
Very good. Friday is always a good day.
Is Friday always a good day?
Hmm.
Is it? Is
It's
it
a higher
always?
average. Higher average.
Amazing. How's your week going so far?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
Are you a tea man? Is that what it is?
Team?
You like tea? What are you on?
Oh, well, first off, this high quality. Oh, you can't see it, but
Show it in front of your face. I've learned
yeah,
now.
yeah, that's right. High quality Walmart tea. Um, I'm not really, but I had a bunch of excess tea because anything from Walmart you buy in packs of 1,000. So
I don't walk into America's largest waistband of a store. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
I'm very, every time I walk into a Walmart, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm at the
yeah.
zoo. I'm at
Are
the
you
zoo
a
right now.
Are you a tea or coffee person?
I am a black coffee for sure, and it has given me IBS.
That is painful.
Don't drink as much as I do. Oh no, it's the only thing that can get me going in the morning. No,
Yeah.
but yeah, for real, I make a big pot of this stuff, like a mason jar full, and then I just fucking sip on it throughout the day. And to be honest, like, I just need to drink water. It's like I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
piling
yeah,
coffee and water into me. But
yeah. I'm.
anyway,
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. I'm not too hooked on caffeine like other people, but man, wherever I've worked, it's always been yeah, a lot of those. So, not. I wouldn't suggest getting hooked if you're not already hooked.
yeah, try to stay away from 3 cups of coffee in the morning. And if you're already there, like, fucking wean yourself back. Like, figure
Yeah.
it out. Absolutely. I'm screwed. uh, welcome today. What a week. I almost died in a thunderstorm.
Oh yeah.
Incredible. Right? So Boulder had a mad thunderstorm there on Thursday. I'm walking over to go see my girlfriend. I take the dog with me, walk across town. I pick up some flowers on the way. I get there, she's not there. She's gone out. She's with her girlfriend. She's having a good time. I drop the flowers off, and then I just see the storm rolling in. And I'm like, okay, the sky is now dark. Everything is screwed. Holy crap. And it starts raining. I'm like, okay, rain in Boulder is actually nice because it doesn't rain in Colorado all that often. So, like, when it does, it's, like, enjoyable. So I was like, great, I'll walk in the rain. Nope. Whole thunderstorm just rocks
Yeah.
in right across the top of the town. Boulder is large, tall trees and light posts all across
Oh
every
man.
neighborhood that I'm walking through, and I'm like, do I walk in the middle of the road? Like, what do I do here? So I'm walking up like Iris and Evergreen, and to get up to Iris and like I'm walking up like 19th to get towards like Iris and Evergreen, so I can go back towards like my place. And I'm looking across the road, like right in front of me, a block up. Just this cataclysm of like 4 spikes from the clouds. I
Woo!
just comes together into a singular like little point and just goes and it's like it blows up a block up the road from me. I,
That's the opposite of chain lightning. It's unchained lightning. I
it
don't
was
know.
unbelievable. And then I was there walking across the road and I see it and I'm just like I instantly, like, there's no time between the thing. It just like the whole place is just shook.
Man, how's the dog handle this? Was
Well,
it
we both ran. I ran to the closest house that I could find.
shared
I
trauma across species?
I
They
jumped
understand.
across their flower bed, and I cowered in their doorway. I literally like got like, looking at the sky and rang their doorbell. I was just like, can you let me in? There's lightning, and then and then the woman, like, funnily enough, they let me in.
That's awesome.
They were a very nice couple.
Yeah, yeah.
They gave me a beer. We talked for 20 minutes and we had a great time. But she looked at a lightning map. I didn't know that this was a website
Oh, me
that
neither.
you can see real-time lightning strikes. She was like, dude, it was like 0.6 away. It's like right there. It's like, yeah, I saw it. It was fucked. So yeah,
That,
that was my Thursday. That was great. Oh.
that's good to know because it's gonna be raining and storming all week. So
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta be very cognizant of that without a car now, and I'm just walking around the place getting caught in thunderstorms.
Yeah.
But talk about a thunderstorm, though. What are we gonna talk about today?
So last night I saw a Reddit thread that was about Doom versus Doom Eternal,
Oh, it's spicy.
and
It's real spicy.
so, so I have to admit, as a very um, I don't know, you could call me a casual gamer nowadays. I have not played.
You're a casual gamer.
I,
Jesus
I'm
Christ,
super
I don't.
yeah.
I'm not even a gamer. If you're a casual gamer, like I've slid off the scale.
Yeah. I play games pretty briefly, and I play a lot of mobile games. But I have not played either of the new Dooms. Um, but the take was that Doom Eternal was too much, and it was a really interesting thread. This was on our Patient Gamers, which I hadn't heard of either, and I was just really fascinated because I read through the comments, and the comments were 50-50. It was right down the line on what game people liked. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating, especially because I didn't know the games were that different. So that, yeah, that was a very interesting thread to read through.
Yeah, it
And of
is.
course, Sean is familiar with the game, so I pinged him immediately. I was like, "Hey, man, which game do you like? I mean, are they really that different?"
Yeah, seriously. So it is very interesting because I don't remember even all that much playing through 2016. I finished it, but I like there was no serious memorable moments to me or where I really felt like super attached to the whole thing. But the biggest thing for me is I just remember the game being so much slower. Like it was genuinely slower than everything else, you know what I mean, than Eternal, and that was a, I guess not a cog, like it was just like a symptom of where they were at. Like if you look at the games in Lineage, right? Let's take a little quick look. Oh, I grabbed the wrong thing, of course. So if we look at like the games in Lineage, right? In my opinion, 2016 is this great baseline where they figure out battle arenas work and they're fun. Fine. I don't think that they're that fun. I still don't think that they're that fun in Eternal, but at least the maps are like enough level design that it's not like a circle and I just do a loop or whatever, right? But I'm not getting, in that game, I was getting caught a lot. I couldn't move as fast, obviously, so I just kind of like, I'd have to really pay attention to positioning a little bit more. There's like less enemies and like less enemy AI, so it's more just a general shoot 'em up, and but get everything, kill it all, go through to the next thing, and kind of use whatever weapons you wanted to use within those moments. And obviously, you have ways to like regain your HP and all of that stuff in the same way that you do it in Eternal. But it was slower. Eternal, then they ramp it to at least a 7. It was a lot faster. The combat, they've polished the combat loop so that the combat puzzle is now like a real layer on top of just weapons. Like, yeah, you can just use weapons, but if you do specifically use the right weapons at the right times, you do better. And that's fine. That's great. But it does run into some of the issues that we'll see here too. But then we get into the ancient gods, and with a couple of other management things on top of all of those layers, it does become a matter of like they've thrown more enemies of the same type and less ammo, and just to try to ramp tension and just make things harder, as well as adding a couple more like mechanics. I mean, not big things, but it felt like the same game. It felt like the same game, but again, just kind of like faster, like more enemies, more stuff.
So when you encountered those like ancient god fights, would you salivate and you're like, oh, here comes an awesome battle, or were you like, oh man, this is gonna be a little tedious?
If you die a few times, look, so we'll go some of these things here, like going through this person who's like the very last point. I could go on about how terribly designed Marauders are and how removing them from the game there would be nothing of value lost, but I think I wrote more than enough about that. Like, I actually, I mean, I think a lot of people wouldn't disagree with that. Um, The bigger boss fights are fun. Don't get me wrong. Like some of the bigger things are cool, but Marauders are such like mini bosses within the game, and then they start throwing. There's a stage where they throw two at you, and it's like they've they've tiered the 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 battle arena like waves, right? So like there's like a first wave, you got to kill 80% of those, and then the next wave spawns, and then you got to kill 100% of those, and you got to kill 100% of the last to like finish the level, right? But they have these trigger points within those battle arenas, so that you're draining characters like a resource. You're killing enemies like a resource. They threw two marauders into the
Oh
battle
God.
at the in half at the halfway mark. So you had to kill two marauders, then kill a bunch of crap after that. And it's the two marauders where I died the most. Just because they have they're always on top of you, right? Like when you try to get away, they spawn this dog that chases after you, and that thing will just traverse as much as like if you watch it path, like it's kind of crazy, like the way it is. So the only way that I was really able to kind of like successfully get through this thing was not actually play the game like you're supposed to play. I had to cheese the AI really hard because the Marauders were all buffed to crap. The arena was small. The ammo that I actually needed, like required, was very lax. And then they throw every now and again. They'll always keep a steady, like a very small trickle of creeps, like 1-1 units, right? That are supposed to be your refill bags for like
I see.
whenever you're low on HP, like run around the map and find these guys. But every time you would run around the map, you would mess with the Marauders' battle combat, right? Because then they would both spawn the dogs because you're too far away. So now you have to handle the dogs again. The dogs are faster than you. They're biting at your ankles. So if you're not traversing the map and killing these things and picking up all of your ammo, there's like almost like no time for you to even get back to even like just attack the Marauders. And I just felt like the best way to do it was just a cheese. But I think that the overall sentiment of when we go through this is going to ring true. Okay, this person believes, and I agree with them, that that the combat loop is too too much, right? In a fast-paced shooter, why split three resources into separate mechanics, cooldowns, hotkeys to keep track of them? I agree with this. Uh, if you are, and here's a weird thing, right? Because this comes down to like, how much are you supposed to keep track of? Does I don't think that the game developer actually cares that you keep track of your Crucible resource. I don't think that they really care that you're keeping track of, when your um, ice grenade is off cooldown versus when your fire grenade is off cooldown. Like to me, I don't think that that's what they care about, and that's not what I cared about. All I cared about was that I knew the vectors to get the rewards that I wanted, right? So whenever I need ammo, okay, cool, I see that guy over there. Do I also need health and do I need armor? Great. Run over, flame belch, grenade, and just chop him with the chainsaw. And great. I don't have to think about that because I at some point when thinking back to the rhythm game that we were looking at a couple of weeks ago, that's what it became for me. Like all of the rest of the world has to go away, and I actually have to think. I actually have to sit there and be like, okay, no, I am gonna see that guy over there, and I'm gonna pick him out, and I'm gonna do this to him so that I can get that resource, so that I can go back into the greater fight to go and fight that bigger demon, and that's how I'm gonna do this battle combat. Now I might have a circle, a little loop that I'm gonna do and run around the place to kind of like get that done, but that's all I'm thinking about. And maybe the way that they've added all of these things and split it, they could definitely be simplified. And I like the simplifications that this dude has here of like, hey, could the chainsaw and the crucible just be an upgrade, right? Like, why can't I upgrade the chainsaw? Why isn't this just a progression reward within the game and and a different vector? And part of that is because well, you don't want to give the player one of the most powerful tools, right? Like the Crucible is this one hit. If you have this amount of energy, you can just one shot like these big elite demons, right? The chainsaw doesn't do that. Chainsaw is like primarily for like end kills of any demon and quick kills for reloads of from smaller demons that you can just kind of like blow up and just use like straight away. But you can use that like what 3 or 4 times as many times as the Crucible. So it's like now it's a power dynamic. It's like I want to give you something really really powerful. Like it's a god sword. I just got this from killing a god. And then if you would put that on your chainsaw, it's a competing player motivation and game dev goal because like I can't give you this powerful thing and make it really really powerful, but then also allow you to use that multiple times as many times as you were using your chainsaw. So
Does it have a big cooldown? Is that how they balance it?
there's no cooldown. There's actually just like a set number of times that you, like resources that you can use, and you pick it up throughout
Oh,
exploration and
okay.
continued progression. Once you pick one up, you get one basically currency for that thing, and you can spend it however you
Wow.
want.
Sounds a little scary to use, unless they keep giving you an okay amount of them. Okay, yeah.
And that's the thing is they don't really, you know what I mean? It's definitely titular times where like, all right, like yeah, I need some of this, but it's a low strain, so you could use it on any character and you could just blow it. And I think that there's more FOMO there, and and coming back to like, do I need to know about this? I don't think
Yeah.
I used the Crucible once. I might have like
Yeah, yeah.
hit the hotkey by accident and killed something, but like because it is so powerful, right? Like the game devs in my mind have made it so powerful and so limited on resource. I never used it.
Yeah. It's
So
like
like
potions in an RPG. I'm gonna hoard it.
yeah. So like motivations like jumped out from my mind there where I just didn't I'm not paying attention to all of the mechanics. Same thing here where this person goes and says, and then there's blood punch, which is also such a weird mechanic. Just why, with all of the garbage to already keep track of, I also need to keep track of having to fill up some supercharger. Great. It would have been much better just having a more reliable, consistent melee attack. It's like, sure, but then you would just use the melee attack. You know what I mean? The thing is that the blood punch is such a powerful attack and gives you back resources that you do need to kind of like know, hey, I should use this or when should I use this, but you don't need to know when it's on or when it's off. Like I think that it's, to me as a player, I got in the rhythm of like, oh, I've used that, so I'm not gonna think about it now for another like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And also the cues, the sound cues allow you to try to pick up on some of these things in terms of like what's recharged, what did I just pick up, armor sounds different, um, but also it's like, yeah, I'm using my melee attack at different times as well too. And if my melee just doesn't go off with a blood punch, it's like I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel bad that I missed my resource timing. I don't feel, I feel bad that it's off cooldown. I just go and say, oh, okay, cool. I just don't have that right now.
Right.
So I think that's like a different motivation thing. Like this player is obviously looking at all of the things that they can do and trying to keep track of everything they can do, whereas like my player motivation is like, what am I going to do now, and what do I think are the tools that I have to do that, right? Like or sorry, not even what are the tools that I have to do that, what am I doing now, and like what do I need? I need more health, I need more armor, I need more purple ammo for my laser beam gun. That's my priority. And then I go and use the tools, like whatever tools I have available at that moment to go and accomplish that task. And I don't really think about what resources are up and what resources are down and everything like that.
Okay, yeah, no, I have a question around that. So, if you were to play the game on the hardest difficulty, do you need to think about every single resource?
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, this person's completely right when it comes down to like very similar to how you have to babysit armor and ammo. On the higher difficulties, like you will just get mauled, and like
Yeah.
if you're not constantly moving around, if something really touches you, you can get stuck, and they'll just swarm you, and you'll just die instantly.
Yeah.
But on secondary though too, it's like because they've refined the battle mechanics and added these puzzle elements to, to the core combat loop, where it's like I need to use this mod and this gun on this enemy and shoot at this individual point so that I could blow that thing up and take half of its health bar versus shooting it with this other gun and just chipping at it. They've made it very important that you do that one thing. So if you don't have that ammo for that specific gun, even though I have 7 other weapons, I gotta go find ammo for that gun.
Right.
Now, finding ammo is should be something you should try to build into your combat, right? Like maybe this is just gameplay combat refinement, right? As I'm moving around the map, I'm finding those 1-1 creeps. I'm belching and chainsawing to my heart's content. I'm constantly moving around the map, and I know, like I learn where the major spawn points for the things are within those little battle arenas, especially when you're there for like long enough. You like, oh yeah, rockets are on the 3rd floor. It's like, okay, cool. Like I'll just go pick those up, or maybe I'll save them for later or whatever. So this person wants a much more simplified, loop, like back to 2016 a lot more, which was just kind of move and shoot and did they even, I don't even know, did 2016 have a dash? Do you know?
I don't know on that one.
I'm looking at the video right now, like the gameplay of 2016, and let's just really quickly take a look at this for the sake of ourselves. So here's the video for you, and then I'll find. Let's look at this for a few seconds and just see, take in what we like, take in what we see, and I want your opinions on this because like I've played the game, right? Doom Eternal. Let's see, Ancient Gods gameplay. There we go. Don't spell ancient with H's, kids.
You know what's the first thing I notice on a skim?
Yeah.
Is that this guy is only using basically 2 guns. Oh no! In Endgame, he definitely switches it up.
Well, it's a big thing of when you get a lot of Quake players that are used to railgun rocket launcher, and you find 2 things that you subset into.
Yeah.
That is definitely another reason why this combat, was evolved, right? Like they specifically want to push you around the box. They don't want you to rest on your laurels and just use 2 different things in 2 different mods. It's like, hey, we built an entire upgrade system. We want you to utilize it. Now, I don't know if you remember, not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
We when Doom 2016 first came out, somebody started playing it at GameSpot or whatever, one of the journalists, and it was like the gameplay video was one of the most heinous things I've ever seen. It's like, dude, you gave somebody who's never played a first-person shooter or even picked up a controller before Doom Eternal and said, go record a gameplay video, and it was a disaster. But I'm right here, right? So I'm at 5 hours and 9 minutes right now for this guy.
Okay, I'm synced up.
And you can kind of see, he's walking around with his rocket launcher, he's exploring, but like there's no dash, there's no move. We're just like half a walking pace. Like it's a walk plus a run, I guess, right? But like now we're in this like puzzly part of the level. The game looks great. Looks really clear, smooth as well. All the silhouetting looks really good.
Yeah,
even though it's
this
like
reminds me a little bit more of the old Dooms in terms of just like,
doesn't it?
You're walking and you're shooting and exploring to some degree.
Yeah, this feels a lot more like Quake, like old Doom, like Doom 2 or Doom 98. You know what I mean? Any of these.
Yeah.
Like, guy's just picked up armor, like walking through this room, but he's just walking, right? Like there's no major movement here. Alright, he's just picked up a skull. Skull's kind of cool. Blue skull acquired. Alright, let's skip forward a little bit. Let's try and get to some combat, I guess.
Yeah, around 5:11 he gets into combat. Or 5 hours 11 minutes.
Yeah, right after that. Right after that, this dude just has no idea where he's going. he's just walking around this battle arena. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. Okay, it's like what a terrible place to have this video. Yeah, he has no idea. He just has no clue. Okay, checkpoint reached. Finally, he's found the blue skull door at 20 minutes.
I mean, here's kind of an example. Like, is it an accessibility thing? Would this guy and his skill level just get eaten up in Doom Eternal?
I don't think he get eaten up, but I think from the sake of it, he actually does well.
Yeah.
But even like in this case, like I just skip forward even more, just like to 22.
Yeah, go for it.
This guy just sees like one enemy, and the one enemy seems to kind of give him some problems. And like definitely the amount of enemies is very, very different. It's not the same by any standards. Like a 7-to-1 difference, it feels like, looking at this. Which is kind of interesting because here's what Doom does now versus what it feels like it does here. The power of fantasy is just so much bigger in Eternal. You really do. To me, I am a god. And I cannot be stopped. Nothing will stop me. I am coming for everything. I don't care. It is an inevitability.
Yeah.
That's how I feel in that game. I comparatively feel so much stronger than everything else around me. Weirdly, in this game, because I'm moving, the character's moving so much slower, so much more sluggish, that sense of power is not there, and everything feels a little scarier.
You know what's a little kind of interesting about that comment? If you read through the comments in that thread, there are maybe a few posts that say, in 2016, I felt like Doom guy. But in Doom Eternal, I felt like I was playing an action game. So some people actually had a different opinion on, when they felt the power of fantasy.
Here's a great example of what I want to go to. So 22 minutes and like 41 seconds. I don't know if you can just get to somewhere around there.
Yeah.
This guy uses his shotgun and starts just shooting the God, I can't even remember what these guys are called. And he's just using them, he's just using the shotgun, shoot.
Yeah.
So let's go over to this Doom Eternal one now that we've taken a look at this for a little bit. And let's try and find some. Now, and this is a 7-hour full gameplay video. Somebody playing through the whole thing. We're at 5 hours, so this is later game.
Oh, you're just running, just playing faster. Wow. Like, I don't think he's even dashing. He's just plain moving faster.
Just plain moving faster.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, so this was actually a hard part of the game for me. So at 3 hours and 2 minutes, just try to get to like 3 hours or wherever, right? This guy comes to an arena that I found kind of difficult myself.
This Bridge of Doom.
Yeah. So he does some platforming, works his way from this one battle arena that he's just completed, and hopefully then does a bit of platforming to get between the two. And this is the thing that I would say the platforming is kind of weak. It's kind of hit or miss, it is what it is. It's nice that it's there, But I wouldn't say anybody, even on the Doom Eternal staff, is like, yeah, okay, we cracked it. We definitely got it. But now you can see he's doing this exploratory area here, picking up stuff. Touches a button around 3-1. How do you feel about clarity, seeing these two games now? Like, just, in terms of, like, not even UI, but just, like, silhouette of gun and stuff like that.
Oh man, there is way more difference in the monsters for sure. Or maybe there are also the same differences in the first one, but since they throw way more like heavies at you in Eternal, it's seems to be more obvious.
Yeah,
That there's different enemies.
3 minutes and 2 seconds. They throw two major guys at you.
Yeah.
And then but they also throw two enemy NPCs that dole out shields. So it's like, okay, you've given me these two big bosses to fight, but then the other characters are also then blocking some of your projectile damage. So you have to like pick and choose which do you need to kill first. You got to kill the ads, or you got to kill or you're gonna try to face the big boss. But then also another massive big boss comes in as well, which is like the dude that's on the hover pad. He's got a blue shield, and the blue shield is best killed when you use the direct laser mod on your plasma weapon. So you kind of have to use that to blow up his shield, and then when he blows up his shield, he's really vulnerable to other types of damage, and then you use that other type. So it's like, I only have one weapon and one mod that really works well at killing this thing, but now I have 3 other enemies that all need the same weapon. Because like the big boss guys work really well if they have the same thing. They have a blue shield that you can see on them. And if you crack that shield first, then they're really, vulnerable to other damage types.
Yeah, there's like one whole layer extra of decision making here. It's not just choose your next target and positioning. It's also choose your tool.
It is, yeah. And this is why I say is like, I think that combat evolution was big. The speed and being able to zip in and out got rid of all of the sluggishness of 2016, where like players might just not move fast enough and just get collapsed upon because of bad player positioning, and they get punished for it. Whereas Doom Eternal allows you to kind of like, nah, actually I'm going to zip in, zip out, and kind of move here and move up the entire pace of gameplay, add more enemies because, like, I need more challenge because I'm faster. That's one of the things to counter speed is just mass.
For sure.
But you can see here, like, yeah, this guy is also, the enemy AI is pretty smart. This dude, around 3 minutes and 4 seconds, he's pinging between the wall and, like, trying to poke in and poke out and get a lock on with his rocket launcher. But the enemy AI is, like, targeting him and actually zipping him, like, retargeting really fast, like, out of the gate. They do try to hit you. It's, it's a nice way that way. There's not much cheesing. There's a lot of cheesing you can obviously do, but it is harder to do that cheese. If I know which game is better or which game is worse. I still say that Doom Eternal is a good game, but I don't think that everybody's paying attention to all of these different mechanics that are going on, and I don't think you need to. I think you need to get into the flow state and actually feel the game a little bit more. And this is like, like in life as well too. It's like, don't be so analytical at times. Like sometimes maybe just turn your brain off and just like try to feel the rhythm of it all, rather than, trying to count like, oh, is this up? Is that up? Am I gonna do this? Right? Like you don't need to do that. But it is funny that r/patient gamers are like, this game is just too much for me. And then you look at like 2016's Grandpa game, the dude's just like trucking around with my shotgun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just shooting things. I wanted to find here to go back to the shotgun analogy, right? I want to try to find like an actual good example time that shows this off of the use of it, because there definitely is. But in Doom Eternal, you're rewarded for using the shotgun mods that have the grenade on them. So you shoot the grenade into the enemy's mouth, and they
Yeah.
swallow it, and it's a one shot. So it's like,
Yeah.
whereas in Doom Eternal or Doom 2016, that guy is just like pow 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 pow, just like shoot the shotgun as many times as possible. Like if you actually do kind of like get it in the hole, you know, and take that patience and have that mental fortitude to actually go and say, no, I'm gonna slow my own mind down here. I'm gonna look at that thing. I've got 20 other characters that are all shooting me at this one time. I'm gonna jump, dash through the air, and then and just, you know, like hit that dude in the face. Like that is the level that you kind of need to have.
Yeah, it's so, you know, I'll take a step back in kind of why we're talking about this in the first place.
Sure.
And the grand issue behind all of this is that when you make a game, you are going to get comments and suggestions all over the place from probably very angry gamers. And they're going to be very divisive, like in this case where it's 50-50. And the question is, who do you listen to? And the answer is none of them. You should never don't listen to any of the comments directly. But they're all evidence. They're all symptoms, and you're supposed to look at all the feedback you're getting, and then be like, okay, what can I do here? Now, in game design, a lot of things feel like trade-offs. Like in this game, it's like, do I trade off being a more simple game where you don't think as much so that people can be in the flow, or do I make it more like Eternal, where is more puzzly and there's more things to do, which another set of people would be like, this is how I get into the flow. And if you actually look at this thread, you'll see the exact same analysis for the two different games. And, you know, you got to pick up. You can pick up on that and then think, wait a minute, maybe different groups of gamers need different levels of what's the psychological term? Arousal, actually. Arousal and stimulus to get into the zone, because, you know, some people can handle 800 decisions a second, and some people can only handle 8. So, you know, for this one, just
solid
like
4.5 decisions per second.
yeah. Man, there should be like a website that can determine how many decisions you can make a second. But, like, you know, just on the surface level, that kind of tells me that, you know, different people require these different levels, and if you can somehow provide both audiences with the same game, which sounds really hard on paper, then you can serve both audiences in a way.
Yeah, it is weird, right? Because if you look at those two games, there's like not even 4 years apart from them. That's a huge departure in terms of gameplay. Like, those two games, if they had different graphics, would be different games. You know?
Absolutely.
So that's a big thing when you're talking about your audience segment and saying, how do we make a sequel to this? And how do we serve the audience underneath us? And you also have to remember, like, people play Doom because of playing it, you know, on a floppy disk back in the day, right? Or, like, there's a bunch of boomers out there, there's a bunch of me that just, you know, remembers the good old days and, you know, tries to keep playing them, you know. And the reality is that if you've been playing that slower paced game, or maybe you're just getting a little bit older and stuff, you just don't want to keep up with that fast paced stuff. You don't have the time to deal with that intensity. You don't have the patience, you don't have the feeling. You don't want to. It's like, do I want to have high blood pressure? Like, I already have high blood pressure. Do I need to have more of this? Like, dude, I'm gonna have a heart attack. What's going on here, you know?
I was just talking to a friend. I was looking through my Steam list because the game is currently on super sale right now, 75% off. And I noticed one of my friends who really likes these shooter games only played 2.5 hours. So I asked him, I was like, hey, is the game not good? What happened? He said, I just got busy and I couldn't mentally invest into the game. And he plays these games.
Yeah, it's a lot. I used to just when I was edging through it, I would just do one battle arena, then one battle arena, then
Interesting.
one battle arena. I couldn't do any more. Sometimes I would get towards the end of the level and I was like, just let it end.
Right, right, right.
Like, and then I get stuck on like one battle of like where they've just thrown 1,000 of enemies at me and they've dumped 3 bosses on the screen at one time and I just have to handle it. And I'm just like, maybe maybe I do just want to put it in story mode first, like, you know what I mean? But then I'm like, no, no, I'm a god. I'm
Exactly.
gonna beat everything, and then I finally do, and I get this sigh of relief of thank fucking Christ that's over. Get
Yeah.
me the fuck out of here. But that's why, like, I don't know, like I dropped it for ages and then came back to it, and
Interesting.
because I wanted to dedicate the time. But
Yep.
there's an intensity to these things that you just, it's a barrier. It's absolutely a barrier. Now, I would say that the slow pace of 2016 might be a barrier to me now as well. I think it's like almost, that's too slow pace for me now. Like I need somewhere, some, excuse me, somewhere in between. It's like where I think like the sweet spot is. But I just say like, this is where it comes down to, you make a great point. How are you serving this audience segment where you go and say, I have a bunch of legacy players that have played my other products. They played all of these old games. They played all these other things. I need to serve them in some way, but their skills need to increase, or like there
Exactly.
needs to be an evolution to the combat mechanics. And I would say that in places, Eternal has probably gone overboard. Could some simplification do well? Yeah, absolutely. But would it be the same crazy fast-paced mess? Like, no, it wouldn't be. And would I respect it more for that? I don't know if I would. But like, you know what I mean? Because it's the decisions themselves that set you apart from the other game. It's like being able to handle what's in front of you, you choose your tool and make that decision is huge. And I want that. But so I don't know if you can serve both audiences. I don't know what the thing is here. And also, back then when the game came out, I wouldn't doubt that the same feedback was kicked around at the same time. It's like, I just wish it
Yeah.
was a little faster. I just wish it was a little bit of this. So, would a modifier for the game that actually genuinely slowed down the game by 0.25 of a second help these players?
So
Like, just,
personally, yeah,
yeah.
I think yes. It's not something commonly. It's not a common mechanic, but actually just slowing and speeding up the raw game time is a mechanic I've played with, and I think it really works. Like it the only other game I know of is Devil May Cry. I think DMC3 just had a raw speed modifier,
Mm-hmm.
and it really equalizes the battlefield. Like people that want to make like a ton of decisions a second, you can just crank on this turbo mode, and I do think that's a really cheap way, um, like 3 lines of code to just speed up and slow down a game. I think that's a nice way to do it, but it's hard to say since barely anybody has implemented it and played with it.
Yeah, I'm just reading back through the comments here and just trying to see something. But
Yeah,
I mean, we've talked around this. I think that I mean, it's an interesting position to be in. It's definitely a cool little read to just see somebody just be like, it blows my mind, but I can see it. You know what I mean? It's like if you just want that type of gameplay and you want that slower pace and you want it probably feels, as you called out, more connected to the older games, which is more in line with what the IP is. So it's like this newer stuff is like, is it even Doom?
yeah. Here's kind of the thing with sequels. Okay, so let's just say there's an alternate timeline where Doom Eternal was more of the same. Like this is what half the people in the thread are calling for. They're like, I wanted more of the same and not this. Well, a good case study for this will be Overwatch 2, which to my knowledge is very very similar to Overwatch 1. And you're my guess is that people are not going to be excited about this game because like you said earlier, the player base does evolve, and as you're doing the same thing kind of over and over again, you will get bored of it over time. But one thing I wanted to also touch on is I did watch a dev interview
Okay.
with Doom Eternal to actually get their train of thought,
Oh,
and
smart. Not
yeah,
just
they
like
in
do
fact
me and just
yeah,
spit
no,
off
no, it's all good.
bullshit as if it's fine.
Let's get a
Yeah,
third
that's
opinion.
they said that.
Yeah, and I don't fully agree with him, but what he said was, okay, so their concern was they wanted to get people in the flow state, and what the term he used was the fun zone.
Yeah.
So he repeatedly used the fun zone, and it's definitely true. If you have an experienced crowd that has played the 2016 game a lot, then it's going to be harder. They need more challenges. And they said their answer to that was, yeah, making more decisions, making it more complex, so that people would stay in the fun zone. And the place I didn't agree with that was that, I mean, there are still other people, even if they played 2016, that can't get into the flow state because now they've reached their cognitive limit. They're just different types of players. So yeah, I don't think that more decisions guarantees more fun or more flow state. I've been here. I have played plenty of hardcore games, and I can tell you, a lot of people fall off very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, Jesus, we all know it's a series of interesting choices, right? But
Yeah,
if there's hundreds of interesting choices and they all lead down paths that I can't really see down, and I can't really go and say, well, if I make this decision here, what's that impact later on going to be? And I can't make that choice. It's hard for me to even plot a path through decisions because every decision
exactly.
feels shallow.
Exactly.
So if you can't catch that combat loop and be like, no, I'm going to do this and then plan it out, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go here, and then and because you can see how like it's 4 times the speed, like that Doom Eternal to the other game is like night and day. Like I can't believe like how different that speed jump is.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you just don't like that other game, like of course, why would you like this one? They feel like very different titles now within the same IP bracket, and I don't know how to feel about that because now I'm like, oh, is there going to be a way where they can go back, or is it always just going to be this hyper fast pace, go 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 type of thing? That's
Yeah, I've certainly seen franchises that go back to an earlier version, so it can. But you're gonna wind up with another thread that's gonna be like, man, I miss Doom Eternal. Give me more of that.
I need a speed mod. This game's too slow for me.
Yeah, yeah.
but it is funny, you know what I mean. Also, then like looking at this one here, patient gamers, like games that use knowledge as progression. Uh,
Hey, we talked about that
yeah,
a few podcasts ago.
yeah, exactly. But funnily enough, did you see Donkey's video on The Watcher?
Oh no, because I plan to play that game, but go ahead if you need to spoil. Go ahead.
No, no. So I have played. Um, it's The Witcher, right? Isn't that
The
what?
Witness.
Sorry, The Witness.
The
My God, Jesus Christ! I've played The Witness a bit. Another game that demands a lot from the player, right? Doom Eternal demands a lot of mental processing from the player. I have to keep running, looting, shooting, go 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 go
Yeah.
go all the time. The Witcher does it or The Witness does it in a completely different way,
Yeah.
where
It doesn't hold your hand.
does not hold your hand. You do need to kind of remember these things from play session to play session, and those play sessions could be very big and in between because in the same vein, I get burnt out on both games. It's like I am mentally being charged over here, and I can go through that a little bit, but then after a while, I gotta stop. I'm like I can't do this for another couple of weeks. I need a minute, and then same thing with the Witchers. Like I will just get stuck and frustrated and just be like, all right, we're going all the way over to this other place. Like, you know what I mean? And you leave the puzzles that you've just been working on for like
Yeah.
a couple of days and push through like 3 or 4 different ones, and you're like, now I'm just gonna go do something else. And you come back, you're like, where? How did I even do this?
Exactly.
Like, it's so that is crazy to me, and it's a game that I really really want to go through. The Looker, though, is hilarious. I'm curious to get your take, even without playing it, without really any serious knowledge about it. How do you feel about this?
When I
Somebody
first,
took you, if somebody took your like amazing puzzle game and redid it and put it out
yeah,
for free as like basically a parody to how
yeah,
bullshit your own game is,
yeah.
then how would you feel about that? Would you
Right.
laugh or would you try to be like, dude, like, can we take this down? Like, what's going on here? You know?
So my very first impression of that, so I do love The Witness. Is one of the games I respect the most. I wouldn't say like favorite necessarily, but I really respect the design. But I was like, man, this game's like a decade old. And
No, it's
then
not,
the
is it?
Looker came out later. So my very first impression is this game's a decade old. You can parody it
Yeah,
as much
yeah.
as you want.
I agree with that. I agree with that. My only thing is it the whole game? Is it the actual The Witness, but just all the puzzles are different? Like all of the puzzles are just, you know, like easy puzzles.
It might be. I know the game's only 2 hours long, which is why I'm like, oh, okay, I could probably squeeze this in. But, so I'll see myself.
I just love the idea of that.
Yeah.
Like especially with how high profile, you know, The Witness is with.
Oh, you know what? Let me look at Steam charts. I wonder if it made sales for The Witness. Let me check that real quick.
Oh, dude, yeah. Okay, yeah. If we can see the little bump, I wonder if playtime has gone up. I'd replay it. Well, let's replay it. Continue
Not a
playing it.
ton of gain. Um, yeah, only 2% gain. So unfortunately, no bump for The Witness.
Ah,
So though last month it went up 30%. Um,
does
I
it
don't know
have does it have
when did
playtime or like players playing or sessions or something like that?
it does. There's 300 playing right now. But let me see when the Looker came out. I kind of forgot.
300 lost souls stuck in a video game forever that they'll never trying to seek meaning
Oh,
in
okay.
something that's meaningless.
Okay, so the Looker did come out in June. So it looked like the game did get a 30% bump in June, which is pretty good. I mean,
That's
it's old.
marketing. Make a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
enough
yeah.
game that somebody parodies your game and then you get a bump off of that.
Yeah, man. Just
But
pay somebody off of Fiverr to make a game off of you.
God, can we just do that? That would be so funny. Oh my god. Yeah, it would actually have to mean that I would have to put out anything of my own of quality. So to actually even then go and say, hey, take
Yeah.
this and go rip it apart.
And pray that the clone doesn't do better than you.
Well, no, I kind of wanted to do better. In a funny situation, I would love to see an experiment that is like build the small base, like a really stripped back version of something, and then just give the code base to a couple of different, you know, game devs, like whatever, pay them some money and be like, hey, just add mechanics to this.
That's
Like I don't
funny.
care what you do, just add mechanics. Like here's a very stripped down, very basic first person shooter. I just want you to just go just there's the enemies are boxes right now. They walk at you, they can shoot, but I need you to do more. Go I don't care what you do, just go do something else. You know, I'd love to see what people would kind of come up with. Like, would they
Yeah.
just level design people stay within this strain and just be like, well, I'll just make level design toolbox stuff and make that cool? And could you then go and take a game where you take all of those elements and mash them together? Then after that, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
just make it a game jam instead. That way you don't need to pay everyone.
this guy, the real capitalist over here. For
I've seen
sure.
it happen. I've seen companies do that. I'm like, wow, these are tiny prizes for like the amount of I think idea farming that they're actually doing.
Hmm. In this whole thing, then we're seeing complexity increase between game to game
Yeah.
massively, right? Like big scale. And we always talk about onboarding of complexity, you know, while you're in the game. How do I get the player to do this so that they have the full knowledge of what they're doing and
Yeah.
they kind of understand, they can learn within those sections. the on ramp here from 16 to blah is like huge, right? Like that's a big jump. So players are already having to make a big leap just in the offset and not with no training. It also makes me think like, you know, is there ever should there ever be like a place where the game, you know, could it survive if the game had a way to strip back the mechanics? Like let's say like on easy mode, it's like guess what? All glory kills replenish all ammo types. So it gives that person what they want. You know what I mean? But now you're on easy mode. But like let's say it's a toggle or something that you can like flick on, flick off, like
Yeah.
should games with those kinds of puzzle complexities within its combat loop theoretically allow the player to try to manipulate those things for their own game? So like difficulty is one thing, but like difficulty within mechanics is a different thing. Changing the difficulty slider is not gonna change how many mechanics you have to fucking manage, you know?
Right. Yeah, this is a really good question. I'm still thinking about this, which is why I think it's an excellent topic. Because when you have a quote hard game like Doom Eternal and it's unrelentless, it forces you to learn. And I'm quoting the dev here, learning the correct fun way to play to get into the fun zone. And okay, it looks like that struck a chord with you somehow, either good or bad.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I'll quickly finish though. But I think a good example of what you said about like changing the mechanics to fit people, I think Elden Ring is a good example of that. In Elden Ring, you can just play a mage and just like destroy things with spells, and that is the easy mode of the game. And it does allow weaker players to succeed still. There you go.
I will never
So
play. I will never play a Souls game.
but that is obvious. I mean, obviously, that is very dev heavy. I mean, the game had a huge budget, so they could afford. Oh yeah, let's just add a whole new class into this. But I do think there are ways you can throw in more accessibility without compromising everything. But a lot of people would disagree, like the Doom Eternal dev. He would disagree.
Yeah, so this is interesting, right? This is a good point. This is great. You saying that has gotten me down a tread of player archetypes.
Yeah.
They've built one player archetype and said, I am squeezing all players. You're all going to play this way. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There is one way to play this game. And you're going to play that way, and you're going to have fun. Because I say so, and that's the archetype, and that's the critical path, and that's all I'm building.
Right.
In a lot of games, you know, specifically mobile games, RPGs, any sort of, you know, games that have some like real hard like masteries or different pathways that you can take, right? Those are built around player archetypes. The mage player for Souls is like, yeah, actually, we just need kind of like an easy mode. Like we want those players to subset into this. They'll most likely subset into range because they don't want to be in melee combat because it's too dangerous. So we need to make that a little bit. So let's buff those weapons so that those players can feel powerful.
Yeah,
in those
and
ways,
actually,
right?
another real quick example is Overwatch. There are some characters where the reticle is giant, is the whole screen. So, and I play those characters. So, yeah, there's another way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I play the hamster and just roll in a ball and try to knock people off. I don't even care about playing the game. That's my game within the game. That's all I give a shit about.
There you go.
So it is funny that way because they're conscientiously not building for any other player types or any other play styles. They're just saying you do this and do nothing else. And I think that that's actually a detriment, and that's why that they're actually falling into some of these different things. Like they're not trying to build for you know, like, all right, in RPGs the oldest like core thing is like Bartel's like groupings of player archetypes, right? It's like the explorers, the adventurers, the slayers, and the crafters, or whatever it is, right? So these player archetypes and how people are going to interact with this world and how they like the subset. What are their priorities within these things? And you would like to think that you would try to build that into your, you know, we do mobile games, right? So we're making sure that we're serving those players who want to play this game on that path. It's the same way that like Civ has Venice, and Venice can't. It's a mercantile state. You can't build your own armies, but you can buy armies and you can buy other things. You have to win through economic wealth, and that just means very different to the other players who want to do military might and enforce their will versus, subjugate their will. So, what could Doom Eternal do to build a second archetype? Because if there is just one way to play, and that's not serving that audience wedge, because now all of a sudden you've basically cut a bunch of other player archetypes out and just said, you're a quick twitch shooter, and you need to be a quick twitch shooter player. Now, you just have to be that way, and you have to be intense at it. You gotta like that plus chess. So how do they keep that same level, but also try to build for the other player? Like, maybe the I don't know. Like, is this then now all of a sudden weapons need to be equips? Do I have to now say like, wow, there's a melee setup and there's a range setup and you could just be a sniper? Or do we have to have skills that are subset into the weapons so that players who like specific weapons, they can buff those so that it surpasses the bonus that you get from actually interacting with the combat loop for that one? So it's like, this gun's just always good because I've built all of my power tree into that thing. I mean, that's where things get like scarier, where it's like, now you're focusing on the player's mechanics. I don't know, like I'm trying to think through like what would you do to even just make a second player archetype within that game without ruining the whole thing?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there's other kinds of archetypes you can think of. First off, the even more easy one to remember is I don't want to say weaker players, more casual players versus more hardcore, especially in the case of Doom 2016 versus Eternal. Um, and then another archetype that's popular that people think about is the Magic the Gathering ones, where they talk about Johnny, Timmy, and Spike. And I won't go through all three of them, but the Johnny player in Magic the Gathering loves making big combos and showing off their creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally really love doing unconventional stuff. And from what I can tell in Doom Eternal, it's not really a game about creativity. It's a lot of interesting decisions moment to moment, but you're not gonna like be particularly creative in that game.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. To fully answer your question, finally, is that Doom Eternal is fine going down their own path because they made like 50, I don't know, millions and millions of dollars.
Money's not the KPI. Money's not the KPI. No, I feel you. I do. What you're saying though is great because I don't think about that at all. But like, can the player, like, these are goals. These are all of these X statement, these product goals and user goals that I harp on about. Like, as a player, I want to feel X. Like, I want to feel like I can creatively manipulate the environment to, also increase my battle success here. And I want to use that. It's like, okay, great. Like, that's a statement. Like, that's something we can say, we can try to build in and say, like, can I feel creative here by doing this? And it's not just me shooting some barrels and they explode, right? There's more to it there. So what in that case, that's perfect, right? Because that doesn't change. I was like changing the player, and you're changing everything around the player, which I think is the right thing to do. How can I make the player? Yeah, how can I make the player feel more creative within the battle mechanics? Is a great place to go and say, those players want the biggest chain ever. They want to kill as many units in one go as possible. And some players just are the beater players, and they don't care about the combat loop at all. They just want to use the shotgun as many times as possible, and will use 2 weapons, and that's all they'll do for the entire game. Like, we should serve that play style, right? Like, so I think that's a great way to end this. if I was a Doom Eternal dev and I was looking at the feedback between these two and I was saying, how do I bridge the gap between 2016 and Eternal? Focus on player archetypes. What are those other players screaming out that they're missing for? In there, they never actually really go in. If you look at it, there's nothing really you can extract at the top level in terms of feedback that says that, like, this is a thing, I need to look there. It's all like, this is worse than this, and it's
Yeah.
like, that's not, it's not, if you are trying to ever give this feedback, if you're just a random person, try to think about what do you actually like about the thing, and genuinely what do you not like about it, and talk about that. Not, don't just say this is bad, and give me, this is bad because I feel this way when I do this.
Yeah.
Because if we can, then I can tie that emotion to it, we can figure that out. But
Yeah, the game designer has to act like a detective. They're just like looking at clues, and the more the more insight you can give, it helps a lot.
great. Sweet. You hear that, devs? Hire Calvin because he actually knows how to make a good game. Figure it out, people. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, man.
Enjoy the rest of your week, alright?
You too.